Good evening, viewers. This is the Colonel speaking to you live from the Grange for British Imperial YouTube Broadcasting. And tonight I have a real treat for you. No, it's not the Cat's Duet, viewers. Please don't all switch off at once. This is the Gramophonic Murder Mystery, Part 1, as written by myself in collaboration with the members of the first UK and Europeans Gramophones Forum. Shut down by the dreaded CLPGS. Anyway, they're not going to put us out of business yet. Here we go, viewers. Scene: the Durbar Room, midnight, with the Colonel, Winderwaller Gainey and Punkawalla Fry in attendance. The Colonel was sitting in his favourite armchair, a thick rug over his legs, and his smoking cap at a jaunty angle on his head, beside the fireplace in the Durbar Room. The room was festooned with relics of empire. An elephant's head high on the wall opposite glared at the Colonel. "That blighter was running fast when he hit," ruminated the Colonel, as the last notes of the laughing policeman died away on the Mark 10A EMG gramophone. He addressed Gainey the Winderwaller thus: "Did I ever tell you about the first time I ever heard that tune, Gainey?" "No, sir, I don't think that he did." "Well, it was like this," said the Colonel, as he opened a Brian jewel-encrusted photograph album, secured by a curiously blood-stained hat-pin with one almond-shaped eye as its terminal. It was a dark and stormy night at Hope Hall, the ancestral seat of the hopeless Proudie family for many centuries. The great lumbering Gothic pile was situated in the secluded and, in daylight, picturesque valley of John's Leap. John's Leap, viewers? Anyway, hidden in the dense suburbia of Surbiton, in fact at the end of Terry and June Medford's garden and behind Tom and Barbara Good's place, and had been bought by Sir Jabez Hope, founder of the family fortune. He had invented the patent unicycle commode, and had made millions supplying them to the army of Napoleon III, and not Richard III, as had previously been thought. He married late in life, 89, a strange wild girl, Lady Long Eliza Proudie, who at 21 was somewhat his junior. They had lived quite happily, often unicycling around their rolling acre for hours, and after a number of false starts, they fell off, they managed to have a number of children, most of whom feature in this story, with the exception of Mary Oz, who emigrated to Van Diemen's Land and married a rich lady for her looks. They lived happily ever after, he collecting washing machines, appearing on television, and causing huge amusement to other Antipodean collectors, and she collecting the interest on her money. Sir Jabez died in mysterious circumstances of Mr. Boothitis, and 192 fell on him as he counted the number of screw threads on the casters to verify the genuineness of the machine. According to strict CLPGS rules, there should be 14 per inch to be pedigree. Lady Long Eliza was devastated upon hearing the news and rushed to Sir Jabez's side to hear his last words. "Oh, there was a young chap called Christopher who ran round auctions like a gopher. His nose had a lump on the end like a mump, which meant he could play Pathé records." At which point a piercing scream and the clang of a hat-pin resounded through the Gothic but tastefully decorated with strip pine and big flowered wallpaper halls of Hope Hall. Mike and June rushed down the long eastern staircase, their hearts pounding. They had been telephoning a mysterious bearded gent they acted as poodles for. The wind outside roared ferociously around the ivy-clad towers of the gatehouse under the flyover on the Portobello Road. What was that noise? Was it a scream they had heard, or just the sound of the automatic brake being applied to the HMV Lumiere diaphragm machine that Steve was playing in the music room? A window flew open and clanged against the stone wall. Mike looked out to see Reg, the hopeless Proudie's chauffeur handyman gardener, running down the path with a large bundle under his arm, wrapped in a dark blanket. Reg had spent the day at the local fair, where he had been ordered to sell the family silver. Sadly, he hadn't sold much, as it turned out to be plated tin, but Reg hadn't made much money on the genuine stuff either. Suddenly a large explosion rent the silence of John's Leap, and the north tower collapsed into the west courtyard, flattening a Daimler. Only the registration number survived, A14 EMG. The following morning a heavy shroud of fog had settled on the ruins of the North Tower, and the Daimler, as Alexis Triona paced back and forth amongst the rubble, picking up fragments of masonry and shards of shattered shellac scattered over the scarified screed. Mike, June, Howard, Ian, Graham, Alistair, Ken, Frank, Steve, Stephen and Eliza were gathered in the Cully Room, named after a former butler who was one from my own collection. Eliza said, "Beastly, poor Daddy, snuffed out by that horrible old gramophone." "Shh, you'll wake Mummy," said Graham. "No, she won't," said Alistair. "I heard Mummy snoring, so she be all right." "Well, I think you're all horrid," Ian cried. "How can any of you think of eating? Poor Daddy lying upstairs, with a sheet pulled over him, still clutching that wretched caster, and Mummy beside herself, crying like a banshee, and to top it all, that beastly Reg, taking all the silver and coming back with nothing, and now I'll have to eat my cornflakes with my fingers." At that point, old Cully, son of the other Cully, arrived at the door. "That weren't the Duchess, that were the woman in white. Old Maggie Snell, screaming on the moor. She is forever cursed to do, after creating the first lot of crapophones and selling her collection of sewing machines to do so." Mike and June shifted uneasily in their seats. "And don't forget the old North Tower," Howard interjected. "I haven't," said Alexis Triona, "but we have more important matters to discuss. I think I can tell you why the North Tower collapsed, and why the 192 gave way on top of your father." "Oh, pray do tell," cried Stephen. "Oh, shut up, Stephen. Stop acting Dickensian, or I shall burn your book," said Ian as he boxed his brother's ear. Alexis replied, "I have discovered that the tower and the gramophone fell for the same reason. It's the one thing every respectable Englishman dreads. The most horrible, unspeakable, nasty, beastly thing that can befall any country dweller or gramophonic enthusiast." They all cried out, "You don't mean—" "Yes," said Alexis, "woodworm." "But how?" they all exclaimed. "Father fumigated the parlour less than a fortnight ago, after he painted it." "I believe it was planted on purpose," said Alexis, holding up the Duchess's daughter Debo's Decker, decisively but deliberately. It dangled daintily to a Dickensian degree on her décolletage, with demanding defiance, decorating her with dust in a déclassé dénouement. "Then this means—" "We've used all the D words." "Or murder!" they all cried. And thus ends Part 1, viewers. Tune in tomorrow to the Gramophonic murder mystery. I should point out that the disclaimer is that no person, living or dead, is represented in this story. They are totally fictional, and they do not exist. Thank you, viewers, and goodbye.